So you have, so we're going for 35 minutes and then 5-minute questions.
25, you say?
Yes.
Oh, okay. I'm not pretty sure that I will be able to present all the things that I put here, but it's okay. I would like to say thank you for the invitation. It's my pleasure today to present, I think, my journey from my village to mathematical research. Also for this big celebration, because that is really a nice thing to be here to celebrate 100 year for the first Black who have a PhD in mathematics. Usually what I propose or what I prepare is 3 parts. The first part about my journey, the second part of my outreach and science communication, and the last part, if I really have a time, will be about my research now at the University of Manitoba. Just to start here, if you're able to see this picture in this side, that is me. For people who never see the maize plantation before, that is some maize plantation, and that is me in my village. I born in the village, the name is Babete. It's a small village in West Cameroon. And what we really have in the village is really cultivation about agriculture. It can be coffee tree or coffee, just say like that. Maize, soybean, and many other things that we can have. And as a child, I thought that this was just a plantation, like just farming thing, not a science, because now I understand that that is science. And this remind me this citation for Albert, we say that we don't see the thing where they are, we see the thing the way we are, because I was just in the village and what I see just, oh, we have the plantation, we do this for eating, we do it for selling. That is the beginning for my journey. Okay, for the second part, I learned in the village. We usually, we need to say, oh, we born in the village, we was not rich. But I think that how we was rich in our village or how we are rich is not really about money. It's really about what we have. We can say in agriculture or many other things. But one I learned in my early age was about to sell, to negotiate, because you need to usually go to the market, and also to just merely and divide it. That is the beginning of learning mathematics without or before go to the school. And then I just realized later that this part of me, or this previous part before school, or this daily life really helped me to understand many things in mathematics.
Hello?
Yeah.
Have you gotten on yet?
Please, you say?
Okay, and the lady from where is she from? I think the Cameroon. No.
Yeah. Is the question? I'm sorry. I think that not really understand. Is the question? Yeah, it's from Cameroon.
And she heard it.
Can I continue or no?
Yes.
Okay.
Continue.
Thank you. Yeah. Okay. Still, I become a really young mother. I am like 17, just in the high school. And we have the exams for the last year of the high school, which is calling baccalaureate in Cameroon, I think in other country like France. And also what is really interesting, that in the village, usually we didn't have the light that we can think inside, or in the town, we usually use the storm lamp for learning. And also what was really nice in this part of my journeys was about passing the exams at that moment was not just the grade, because I remember after I passed this last exam, my mom was really like, oh, she have 2 diploma, because now I have a baby and then I also have this baccalaureate. And my mom used to tell me this again and again, is that school is your first husband. In other people, in other way, people can see that it's not really the best way to say, oh, husband cannot be school. But for where I'm coming, and for people who really understand the evolution of the society, can really understand why it is really important to go to school, how it can help people to just make their own decision about many things. Now, after I received the paper, because when you do this exam, you used to receive the paper, I will tell you, oh, that is what you have, and now you can choose to go at university. And when I received this paper, this baccalaureate, I can say it like that, I was really I have this painful and this disappointment about the grade that I have in mathematics. It was an 8.5 over 20. And for the person who maybe just for the journey is high school, like, oh, I think that I really love math, or I think I really understand math. This was really, really sad. And then I started to really thought about, did I really understand mathematics, or it's just something like that? But since many years, I never really think about that. But now when I really go back to start to understand what happened that day, and then I still remember that during the night, my daughter really cried, and then I need to just comforting her. And also this means that during the exam, I was really exhausting. And you already know that if you are really stressful during the exam, things can really, really change. But no matter how I try to convince myself what can be the problem that day, I still be like, I'm really capable to work in mathematics or something like that. Then I moved to the town. Like I grew up in the village and then moved to this town in Douala, which is the economic capital of Cameroon. And now in the village, we was 5 in the last year of the high school, just 5 people who have major in mathematics. And what happened that moment is like in the village with the baccalaureate, people was like, oh, you are really the important person, you are something like that. But when you arrive in the town with the million of people and you arrive at university with 1,500 students, you start to really just realize that, oh, I'm just one among the crowd. But I think what really started to affect me at that moment was I already have not a good marking or not a good grade in mathematics, but also the kind of sexist remark that I have for my first year at university really made me feel like, oh, maybe it's not really my direction, right? The first one was about, oh, the girl like you is not here is here to, like, here is about to choose the mathematical direction. You are here to find the husband, not to study science. And also, oh, you cannot stay awake, because I still remember that I arrived at school and I was just sleepy during the courses. Also something that can happen to some of my friends in the class. But one teacher told me, oh, boy can spend the entire night for learning or for study, but you are a girl, you cannot do these kind of things. But I think that everything or many things around me start to just say, maybe it's not the good thing. I think that what is also really bad in one point make me feel like I need to go to another direction. But another point say, oh, I need to prove people that I'm able to do that. It was about the elder brother from my village and recommend me to go to discuss with him to say, oh, when I go to discuss with him, he say, oh, don't study mathematics. Look at me, the men like me, I'm really struggling with mathematics since I'm here since 3 years. Can you imagine for a woman like I recommend you to talk chemistry. I really think today, I'm not pretty sure that chemistry is more easy than math, but that is just the kind of one. But what really kept me inside mathematics, or what really helped me to continue, I think it's still my mom, because my mom always, no matter if I moved from the village to the town, recommend me that you are able to understand, you are able to do what you want, you are capable to do that. And then I also remind my professor, Mr. Nonga, because that is the professor that I have from my first year in high school to the last year, right? And I remember when I have the grade, and he told me that I know your potential. I told you like during this entire, we can say it is 8 years or more than that. Don't let one grade or other people define you. You are capable. I know your potential. You are able to progress in mathematics. No matter how you have that, right? You are at university, you are a young mother, you have all these things. You need to work to pay your scholarity, to pay your school fees, and you need to do many things. And you are also afraid about to fail, right? Because in the last year, it's not really the last year, in the 4th year at the university, which is calling Master 1 in Cameroon, you need to have like not less than 12 over 20 to be able to move to the next step about research. And this year, it was really like, you need to be able to go in that step. If you didn't do that, you need to forget about everything and something like that. This year, I really need to sleep sometime, stay awake for 3 nights over 7 during the week to be able to complete everything that I need to have. But before to think about research, or before to continue to work and persevere about the fact that we be able to doing research, I met one professor Samuel Bowen during my third year at university. I think that that is the moment that I really just realized many things, because for what I really started to think like, oh, I was enjoying doing that. But for me, it was just about teaching, right? Thinking, oh, when I would be like after my university, it would be about teaching and many things like that. And during my third year at university, I just discovered like mathematical modeling. And that moment it's gone like, wow, we can solve many problems. We can understand many problems. We can complete many things. At the moment, I was like, why I didn't know all these things before? How we do this thing? I think that I'm really, and what was really nice about that was that think about many problems that I have in the village, particularly about agriculture. Like, oh, I can understand the growth of plants. I can really solve the problem about the infestation of the plantation and many things like that. That is why I decided to say, are we doing, I chose to do research. Maybe today, I think that research is first part and then teaching in the second part of what I'm doing in the daily life. But turn to this, I still ask myself today this question since today, because they can think that did I really love mathematics? But for what I can answer to that is like, I really had enjoying solving difficult problem, or just say problem. And also I really love doing mathematics every day, like the daily life, like just wake up, see some kind of little problem in the movie, or I can just see the problem that people post on Facebook, or just see the problem online on Google and just say, oh, try to see if I can solve. I think that for me at the beginning was just like a game, and some place, if you think like the problem that I have in my life, I say, oh, usually I need to solve the problem. In math, it's exactly the same thing. And just for me, that is life. And that is why I really like spend my time work inside mathematics and all these things. Okay. Just to complete this part about my journey, it would be like, if I wanted to just look correctly, I complete my bachelor then in 2015. And then after that, I moved to the second part, which is the master. We can say, yeah, say that in English and French like that. And during this matter, I start to work on coffee. Like already understand in my village, we have the cultivation of the coffee. But when I start to understand after many years pass, why we didn't spend time on that now, why we have less coffee plantation, why we have less coffee tree, there are two problems about disease, but also about the price in the market. And that is the first time that I just have the first visit research funding in France. The first one in 2018 and the second one in 2019. And during that moment, it was the beginning for me to work on the coffee, because the coffee is infested by the leaf, or by, no, it's infested by the fungus, which is calling Emilia valtatris. And this fungus cause this kind of red spot that you can see here on the leaf. And this red spot just reduce the photosynthesis, or the capacity of the leaf photosynthesis, right? And this means that we have the reduction of the productivity and many of yield on the plantation. And during my first part of, during my master, I started to work on that to just understand the dynamics of this fungus using mathematics, so using applied mathematics, using modeling. And the second part, I just continue my PhD on the same subject, but now just extend to perennial plant. This perennial plant means that all plant that you can see gets spent is a yearly plantation. It's a plant that you can list like 10 years. In the case of the coffee, usually you can see that coffee tree have like 30 years or something like that. And this is just, we can just apply for many other tree, the kind of project or the kind of approach that I proposed in my PhD. And the second part of my PhD was about to develop the biological control, because many approach of control of this fungus that they chose coffee tree is chemical control, which is harmful for us and also for tree. And then the second part was just develop the sustainable control that we can use for reduce the infestation. And then after that in France, I just moved in Canada to start the postdoc that I'm here now. And then if I have a time, I will just present my work in postdoc at the University of Manitoba. The second part is about the outreach. Like I just say, if I just look on my journey, I think that what is really, really hard for me to didn't see like people like me in mathematics, but I think that that is about mentorship, and that we can say you can try to convince other people or to explain that it is possible to work in mathematics. But in other side, it is the kind of thing that people have every day, that, oh, math is hard, oh, math is for people doing this, oh, math is not, it's just abstraction and something like that. And that is why outreach and science communication is really important. And for people who didn't know, like if we say about science communication, we mean it is really like the art of making complex knowledge accessible. It can be every area that is needed in mathematics, turning equation and abstract model into clear visual and concrete story that non-specialists can understand and enjoy. And what is really matter for today, and also like we have AI, we have a lot of information, we can have a million of posts, it can be on YouTube, on LinkedIn, how we'll be able to follow and understand everything. And we are living in this age of overload information. And to remain distant of mathematics means sometimes we can try just to say, oh, we don't want to understand this, or try to say, oh, that is not true. But sometimes when you use a simple equation, you are able to just understand that something is clear and it's just not a lie or something like that. And also it's really matter because I know many people with this negative memory of high school or school just leads to, oh, math is not for me. It's really like the intimidation courses that maybe we have at university or in high school, and we keep that in our mind. This is not really bad because maybe the person already have the job. But if you wanted to think about the young people behind this person, the child of the person, to just say, oh, math was not for me, and child start to be like, oh, this math is not for my mom or not for my dad, why math will be for me? And then the outreach that I say, another side is about then motivate people and try to put them in mathematics about emancipation, not to convince everybody to go in mathematics, no, but just because math in everywhere, right? You don't need to be in mathematics to understand the value of the mathematics. And this just wanted to help people to change the narrative. And like I say, many outreach that I did on what I can post on LinkedIn, try just to reconcile people with the mathematics, not because I just want them to go in mathematics, because I want them to understand, to say, oh, that is valuable, that is really important, even if I not understand. And for the inspiration, I just usually go back in my village for the high school that I completed my degree. And also here in Winnipeg in Canada, go to high school, discuss with young people. In France too, during my PhD, and also the first part of my teaching at university. And on YouTube, which is international, I'm able just to see. If I wanted to think about the digital impact that I have today, just combine on social media, more than 100,000 of people follow me on LinkedIn, YouTube, and also, which is really nice to just see, like we have different countries, that you have different nationality, and that moment is just hard to see. No matter if I'm working here in Canada or in France or whatever, I'm able just to try to connect people around the world. And also the kind of project like equity, diversity, inclusion, and accessibility that I get the funding for Digital Alliance to just try to go then to the high school and promote girl in mathematics, and which is really like my mission or our mission to represent, inspire, and open science to young people, and particularly girl. I think that I finished for the outreach. Just wanted to know, did I really have a time for my research or no? Just wanted to know about that. How many time left for me?
You have plenty of time, so I'll say 23 minutes.
It is 23 now?
So you have 22 minutes from now.
Oh, okay. Yeah, just, I think, sorry, give me just a second. Something.
Because assuming we have some time for questions.
Yeah. Just give me 1 second. I was thinking that I fixed something. Yeah. I don't have a problem with my. Oh, then it's okay now. Oh, I'm not able to see my screen anymore.
So we can see you and your slide, perhaps.
Okay, yeah. Okay, I think that is in my slide now because something. Okay, for the last part is about my research. I will try to just explain some few things. I'm not pretty sure. My research here in Canada, we have the infestation of, we have many diseases that cause infection inside Mackenzie River, which is the longer river that we have in Canada. And this is due to climate change. And what I wanted to understand during the first part of my postdoc is not just understand that due to this climate change, many fish change the life strategy. And this life strategy means that usually they maybe just live inside a small place in the river. And also we have many fish who left the river, for example, inside the Mackenzie River and go to the ocean. And also need to come back to the ocean, come back to the river for spamming, for example. And then when they come back, they can carry the disease and come back in the river. The first time, just to understand how or what is the probability that they can come back with the disease, and how or what is this probability that disease can establish inside the river. For the part that I have today is just to look about the co-infection of the sockeye salmon, and the salmon that everybody know the salmon, by the parasite, which is salmon list, and also the virus, which is IHNV. And why it is important to study, just go like, why it is important to study the fish. Let me just see, I think that I have, oh, I think it's okay now. Yeah. Why it is important to study the fish, because like I say, at the moment that they came back inside the river for spamming, we can, before this stage, we can have up to 95% of mortality. And if we have a 95% of mortality, this just reduce the population of the fish. And also this means that ocean have a lot of disease. The key idea here is just to say, you just have, if you just have the infestation with the parasite, this can cause maybe the mortality. But at the moment that you have the co-infection, this means virus and parasite, how we can measure and how we can understand the impact on the fish. And for the biological that we can know, the C list is the parasite will cause skin damage, and also regulatory dysfunction. We can just think about the quantity of the sodium and anything like that we can have inside the fish. And in the other side, the IHNV is the virus, which is a latent virus that can affect the salmon. Now, this is first experimental study. We just try to look about the co-infection. And for this co-infection, they consider 4 different groups of fish. And for this first different group, this means that we consider the group that there is no parasite and no virus. The second group, we have virus and no parasite. The third one, we have no virus and parasite. And the last one, we have virus and parasite. And now for the protocol of the experiment, they just expose, the first part was to just expose the fish for 7 days to the parasite, which is a series. And after that, each fish then received 10 parasite or 10 adult female parasite. And now after 7 days, they just expose the fish to, that is the case that we wanted to have parasite and virus. They expose the fish then to virus. And now we just observe that the mortality is 0% in the case that we just have the infestation with parasite. In the case that we have the infestation with virus only, it is 10%. But when we have the co-infection, this means virus and parasite, we have 60%. And also when they observe, there is no difference between the viral, or this means the concentration like you can see inside the body on the fish at that moment. And now the first thing that I just did is just to use the stochastics model to see how we can evaluate the survival dynamics, or the number of fish that survive after the infestation inside each case. In the case that you have only parasite, that is the, if you have, you can say 100% of fish, and you just see the number of fish who survive after 10 days. And you can go into the last case that you have parasite and virus, and you can just see the number of fish, like you just have close to 20% of fish that you have after 30 days in the case that you have the co-infection. Now, what question we have in the biological point of view or the mathematical point of view, we start to just ask this, how the list or how the quantity of parasite that you have in the fish before the infestation with the virus caused the mortality and how this amplified the mortality. And the question is about there's a point, like just say, you reach that point to say, oh, maybe you have 2 parasites, but when you have 4 parasites, things completely change. There is this threshold that you can find or understand like that, and you have the transmission and severity. And now to solve this problem, I just use the ordinary differential equation. And to do that, that is the process for the modeling. Like you understand at the beginning, we just have the fish without we can say the fish without parasite and without virus. We can consider that in this approach of the modeling that I consider that they are not fish like that, or we can say that is this fish. This S naught that you have here, that is the fish without virus and without parasite. And now the SL that you have here is the fish with the low quantity of parasite. And SM that you have is the fish with medium quantity of parasite, and that is high quantity. Now, when you have I naught here, that is the fish with virus only. And when you have IL here, that is the fish with low quantity of parasite and then the virus. And you can progress exactly the same until the high quantity of parasite. And these are here represent the recovery for virus, and that is the dead fish that you can count. Now, for the modeling approach of compartmental model, you try to start the process, right? Oh, when you suppose that there is not the infestation and the moment that fish give birth, and you just get birth inflow that just arrive inside the compartment that we didn't have the infections. And you can go progressively because the fish can get like the clearance of parasite, or you can have number of parasite who arrive on the fish and reduce, or you can have the, we can say the dynamics of the parasite on the fish. And now each fish that you have here, we just have the parasite can, like you remember in the experience, can just get infected with the virus. And that moment, they just go to the step of the co-infection. This is really 3-stage, we can like a co-infection inside my model. And now we just go to the step that if fish can recover for the virus, and you just have the go there directly, and they can die and directly go in this stage. And now what we have in this kind of model, you can just have the mortality or the natural mortality for each compartment, because you can have fish who can die without the infection and many things like that. What we have in this kind of model to try to calibrate this model with the data that we have from the experimental study and just go for that. The first thing is just to calibrate, because we just have the co-infection inside the thing. And for the first approach, I just use the model that I have here, but for this model, I need to remove the transmission, because with the data that I have, I already have infected fish. So just try to calibrate to see if my model fit with what the data propose or what the data represent. And then for the first case that you have just virus, you just see that the number, or we just really think about 100%, and what we go after 30 days, we just see that this is close to 10% of mortality that we have in the case of experimental study. And now in the case that you have the co-infection, parasite and virus, you just see that the number of infections decrease. And usually you just see we are really close. It is more than what we have. But in the experimental study, it was 60% of that between 12 to 21 days. But when I just push, because I have the ODE model, which is the asymptotical study that I can push until more than 21 days that we have. And you just see that if you just go, for example, until 30 days, you just see the mortality or the number of fish, the survival fish is completely close to zero. The question for the analysis that we can have, I will just skip this part because we didn't have the time for that. For the kind of ordinary differential equation, we use what is calling the basic reproduction number to analyze this kind of study, but we didn't have a time to discuss about this one. I just go directly to what we need to understand, that when we have the parasite on the fish, the parasite can reduce, right? I just try to fit to see how the number of parasite on the fish decrease over the time. Because when the parasite already infect the skin of the fish, now you see that there is nothing that they can do, because there is not another place to infect. They need just to leave and go to another fish. What is really important is that the infestation is just less, like just few days, but what happened inside the body of the fish completely changed, or the physiology of the fish, like we can say. But you can see this curve which fit just the evolution of the number of parasite on the skin of the fish. And now just the last point, where we wanted to ask the question that we have at the beginning: how the mortality or how the mortality change depend on the number of parasites that we have on the fish. We just compute the probability here of the death, depend on the stage or depend on the number of parasites that we have on the fish. It can be 0, it can be low, it can be medium or high. And you just see here, this curve will represent the evolution of the probability to die. Like in the case that you just have no parasite, the probability to die is really here close to 0. But when you increase here, you can just see, because the study that we have just considered one stage, which was this one, the probability to die if you have high number, which is 0.6. But here you see that we can be able to fit to see, oh, if the parasite or if the fish have, for example, a low quantity of parasite, the probability to death is here, and how we can calibrate this. The last point is just to try to see the sensitivity to recovery depending on the number of parasites that you have on the body, but that is just it is close to what I present. I don't want to spend time on that. And to take away, or biological takeaway about the discussion that we have today, is just to see that the number of parasites that you have on the fish amplify the mortality of the fish, because without the parasite, you have no mortality, but you have the physiological parameter of the fish that change. But the interval of the infestation is really important, like at which moment we have to expose the infected or the fish who have parasite to the virus. And what we also see that the windows between 12 to 21 days is critical for the infestation, but when we just go more than this, we see that the mortality can increase if we already have the co-infection. And what I told, the basic reproduction and biology are used to understand what happened. We have the recovery, or we just have the extension of the disease, or we have the outbreak of the disease, and why this kind of study matter. Like as at the beginning, if we are able to really understand this really helps to just fish managing, because we need to understand we have many species of fish that they are just wanted to understand due to this kind of process with climate change, and understand this means that we'll be able to control the risk of the infestation of many salmon like that. Just wanted to thank my collaborator and my supervisor, Julian Arino, and our collaborator, Sharon Kuchi, and my founder, and anything like that. Yeah, I think that is everything. Sorry if I take more time.
Great, thank you, Clotilde.
Yeah.
So we have plenty of time for questions and comments. So, Lara.
Well, first things first, thank you very much indeed for that impressive presentation. I have to congratulate you on having 100K followers. I did see when you was saying that you was going to be doing a presentation at this conference. All of a sudden, my LinkedIn just completely blew up because of everybody was congratulations, and congratulations on your journey as becoming an mathematician. And I can see that the multifaceted there. Do you mind if I ask you a technical question?
Yeah.
All right. Okay, if you go back to slide 7, if you go back.
Yeah, just to say slide 7.
I think slide on the technical part, yeah, where you're doing your technical. I think it was where you had the, oh yeah, there, that's it, slide 7. Right, yeah. Here's a question. Right, so, you know, when a salmon, yeah, gets this lice and gets, you know, and they go into recovery, yes? Yeah. Is it possible for them to get this lice again, or are they just completely immune to it?
Okay, no, they can go back again for the infestation, right? I think that I just keep only the recovery stage about the length of the period, or like say the time period of my study, right? Because if I take like 1 year or more like that, I think that I would be able to just say they go back to this stage, right? Because you see here, in this model, I just consider recovery for virus, right? There is not recovery, for example, for the virus, for the parasite. And then if I go like more than, because now I just consider 30 day, not more, maybe like 50 day. But I think that if I move until like 100 day and more like that, I will consider the model that I have just the reinfection of the recovery fish that I consider here.
Yeah, well, and second, yeah. So thank you very much. That certainly explains that. So you're looking at a shorter time window. So, and is there, for instance, certainly with these types of models, I know it's, ODE is one approach. Have you considered using almost like, because you're talking about probability, have you considered using it almost like a Markov chain approach, like a Monte Carlo simulation Markov chain approach to do this problem?
Yeah, I plan to use the Markov chain because for the second part, it's really about to compute the probability. And the second part is to use the branching process because I can build the Markov chain, which is associated to this ODE model used, for example, the approach of Kurt to make the approximation. If I just increase the number of fish that I have, I will have just say that the Markov chain or the LDU that I consider here is the limit of the Markov chain that I will use. But also what I try is it is really the beginning of the infestation. This means that I can make the approximation using the branching process approximation. And then with this branching process, I can just do the probability generative function, which is associated to the Markov chain or to the branching process. At that moment, I will be able to just compute the probability. I already write something like that, but I didn't add because I don't have a time. But I can just at that moment build the probability function. And for this probability function, we can just compute the fixed point of this probability function. And this fixed point allow us to compute the probability extension of the disease in the systems.
Okay, and I'll just my final comment, and thank you very much indeed, that explains that. You put down in your science communication that mathematics is sometimes fun. Can I just say that mathematics is always fun, especially when you're presenting it like that?
Yeah.
Great. So we still have plenty of questions. So just on the, since you have a technical slide up, Clotilde, so I have a question about I guess it's, so here you're focusing on mortality, but actually, so those salmon that recover, even though sort of they haven't died, even if they've had some sort of viral load, does that actually affect how they reproduce, and does it affect their progeny?
Yeah, sorry, okay. I think that in the model, I didn't really consider how to say the reproduction depend on the stage of infections, right? But it can be something really interesting to add, because now what is really important to be like, I consider the model that we already have the adult, let's say the adult salmon, and this means that they are already in the stage of the infestation, no, in the stage of the spamming, right? But I think that that would be a great idea to add the point about the reproduction depend on the stage of the infestation that we have here. But for the simplification, we consider that, oh, there is not a reproduction if they already get the infection that. But it's a nice point to add that in the model, because it's really changed when the fish get infected. It's really changed about the reproduction.
And just another technical one, then we'll go to the Zoom for questions. So so have you done sort of like the classic sort of stability analysis of the system of equations?
You say the stability analysis?
Yes.
Yeah. I didn't present that. It was about this part, right? Just what my interest was about to understand the co-infection, right? The impact on the virus when they already get infected with the parasite. This means that here, for example, instead of trying to compute the disease-free equilibrium, I just try to compute the virus-free equilibrium, right? Because this just helped me to see, oh, we have fish, but we already know that these fish get infected like that. But that is how I make the study here with the basic reproduction number, and also compute the endemic equilibrium. But this means endemic about the co-infection, right? It's not endemic about just thing. But we can still also compute, for example, the disease-free equilibrium, but for the interest of the question research, that the biological question or modeling question that we have here, it was not really interesting to look for the disease-free. But yes, we have the we do have this mathematical analysis and theoretical result about the model.
Thank you very much. So there's some questions on the Zoom. So I think two questions were around about how did you deal with being a mother and having a child during your studies and research?
Okay. I think that it was really hard for the beginning because when I left my village, my mom stayed with my daughter, right? Because before go to university, my mom stayed with my daughter. At the beginning at university, it was not really easy because I used to go back. It is really far. Like when you take a car, it takes like 7 hours to go back to my village from Douala, which is the economic capital, to go back to my village, which is the west of Cameroon. And usually at the beginning, I used to go back a lot in my village. But when I was able to just work as a student and something like that, I just managed to just, for my daughter come, for example, when we have the vacation and things like that, she comes to spend time with me during the vacation and go back to the village. Now for the research, because I started the first part of research when I was doing what I was still in Cameroon and still able to go to see her, or she can come to visit me. I think the part would start to be really hard. It was moving in France, right? Because when I moved in France for I think it was just the first visit. It was really horrible for me. I remember during this first visit, when we proposed me to do a PhD, I said no, because it was really my first time to stay like 2 months. It was just 2 months and a half without seeing my daughter. And then I think that I was completely like in the other world, no matter what, start to be, no, I cannot live here in this country. I cannot live far to my family and something like that. But when I come back and start to discuss with my mom and some of my professors, what is really important, how you want to secure your life for your daughter, and then that moment I just accept to do a PhD. When I start my PhD, I think I was alone, right? My daughter still live, but now with my sister in Douala, but not in the village with my mom. I usually go back in Cameroon just maybe for one time during my PhD, spend 2 months with her. But I think that at the beginning, it was not too hard, I would say like that, because I was like, oh, I know that I would work, and then she come to live with me. And during the second year, the last year of we can say the second year of my PhD, she come to live with me in France. And then I think that thing become more easy at that moment. It was like, yeah, I need to see her every day, and then thing becomes simple. But I think that without my family just taking care to her, I'm not sure that we'll be able to just go at university and do research, right? Yeah.
Thank you very much. So, you know, the old adage, it takes a village, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So on the note of on the village, we have a question from the chat. So does your work have application to or impact on your home village?
Okay, for what I have doing my PhD, I would say no. I would say no, because during the PhD, I work on this subject, right? We have the infestation with the fungus that are working on in the Cameroon. But what happened is like many people on, let's say, we have the cultivation of the coffee in Cameroon, but there is no transformation for that coffee, right? And what happened is that at some point, I just see the case. I start to understand later that my father, for example, stopped the cultivation of the coffee because the price was imposed by the person who come to buy coffee. And that moment, he just moved to another cultivation or another plant, we can say like that. And now what I have with my PhD, maybe for the coffee, I was not able to use. But when I start directly to work, for example, for the case of the cassava, and also the case of the maize, this one have directly the impact with my mom, and also with what I have, for example, in the village and also in the town. Like I didn't apply for the coffee, but I used to apply for the case of the cassava and maize directly in the case of my village.
Very nice. Any more questions? So I think I have one question, and it's about the sort of style of a mathematical modeler. So I kind of picked up on how you presented your very nice research. So you started with the sort of experimental paper, right? The experimental data, and then you presented sort of a nice model of that, because some people, including myself, I present sort of the theory first, and then the experiments as like you know, the experiments match my theory. So yeah, can you just is that important to you, sort of starting with the experiments first? Tell us about your style of the mathematical model.
Okay, I think that the question that I really have this past month, I think that 4 months or maybe 5, it's really, I think if you maybe look, for example, let's say my research now, you can have many theoretical results, right, without the data or without nothing like that. Why I put this question about experimental first before the theoretical part, because I think for this paper, for this project, for example, my question comes from the experimental study, right? They just take the fish and do the experiment on fish, for example, 20, 21, and 25 days. But for the 4 group of fish that they have, it's just already 100 fish, and they are not able to do a lot of things because that would be really huge. And now when I have the experimental study, start to be like, oh, they didn't think about the, how to say, the dynamical approach, right? They didn't think about, oh, what happened if we change the number, for example, of the list that we have on the fish. And that is why, for me, the question comes from the experimental study. So it makes sense for me to just say, we have the experimental study, but this experimental study didn't ask this question or didn't use, for example, this mechanistics model to present the dynamics and something like that. And that would be just great for me to see, oh, we already have this nice thing that they done, but it's really small data, right? And this small data, why is really still important to just consider the stochastic part, because the data is really like, 100 fish is nothing, right? 100 fish is really small data. And you just, with the if you go back in this graph, just see like when you just try here to say, even the study say that there's not mortality in the case that we have, for example, in this case, there is not mortality in the case that we have just the infection with the parasite. But when you use the continued time Markov chain, you can see that there are different scenarios that we can have. There is not a lot of data. You can see that we can have different experimental or different, let's say, different trajectory. And that is why for me, okay, I have the data. I have a question that maybe the data didn't give, or maybe the experimental study didn't. I need to start with this question, build the theoretical part to answer or to project, or let's say to expand what we have on the data. Yeah, but usually for many other part of my study, it's really about mathematical modeling question. It's not really about the biological question. Something really about modeling question that I have. And you can maybe read many papers and just see that I have really theoretical result.
Great.
Yes. Can I just see the final slide? I think it was the one with the 12 to 21 days.
21, you say?
12 to 21 days window, your result on that.
Okay, let's
lines on the chart.
late. I think you said 21. I'm not sure that I have.
Just your last slide. I think that one with the red and blue. No, with the red line and the
this one.
Yeah, so that one and the turquoise one, right? If I look at the turquoise one, that looks like once we get to between 12 and 21 days, it's pretty close to linear. So that tells me, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, there's an equal probability of not surviving, or dying at each point on that the dashed line where it slopes sort of down and then it flattens off. So how should I interpret that? Should that make me think that it doesn't make a difference as to when I want to intervene in the process of trying to save these fish post-life after they get infected? Or should I intervene at the start at about kind of 12 days, or just wait until kind of 21 days and let those that are infected kind of die off and just focus on the survivors? I'm just thinking of how I should interpret that.
Yeah, I think that for one approach that we have to think about the control is really like, okay, even if we have the co-infection, right? Like if you already have the fish with the list, because at the beginning we expose directly the fish to the parasite. And what is here mean that this interval that you have the physiological parameter will change inside the fish body or something like that because they get infected by the parasite. And for me, I didn't really explore that. Is maybe the approach that you are thinking about is really like, oh, if I did the kind of intervention right, it's just mean the kind of control, for example, here, it will be maybe the best way or the best area to apply some control and make sure that the physiological infection or this control, we can be really like change the physiological parameter of the fish. This means that before, for me, it's, I don't know if it's because this one, but it's before this, change that we have here, it would be really important to react before this period. But I don't know. For what I have, I think that I commend this page, but it is thing that when fish get infected with the parasite, the interval for the impact, like you can say the calcium change inside, because what left after many days, just the skin of the fish. But what really happened inside the fish, like I say, physiological parameter, is let's say the quantity of potassium, the quantity of calcium really changed. This is really the interval of 5 days.
Okay, so yeah, so on that note, thank you, Clotilde. So let's give her a round of applause. So now we have 10 minutes for a break. So yeah. So yeah, thank you, Clotilde.
Thank you so much.
So if you, I don't know, we have a break now, so I don't know if you, I guess, if you want to hang around if there's more questions, but you're also free to leave.
Yeah, I can, if people have some question online, I can maybe just answer before.
Hello, Clotilde, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Hello, my name's Ern. I'm a modeler myself. I really like your work. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Sneaky old Naira stole my question about whether you would do it stochastically as well, but that's good. One thing I wondered was, clearly your work is kind of directed by industry or kind of funded problems, and you found some very interesting problems. If money was no object, and given your journey, what would you encourage modelers to work on? What's the problem that it would be really good to see modelers put some time into that would ultimately lead to some good work? What do you think? You're interested.
Okay, for my research now, we really work directly with people from fishery, right? Like we have the funding from Fishing Canada, and this is really, but I think that is still about like academic research, right? It's not really about enterprise. It's not really about, oh, we wanted to work directly with people who need maybe to put the control and many things directly like that. For what I really think maybe about my background today is like, it's really depend on what we try to do, right? Like if I wanted to just have the how to say, I don't know, if I would like to really develop something that I will see the application directly now, I think that we go directly with the industry, because for example, I have many workshops that we have. For this workshop, for example, it was maybe something with nautical crime industry, the kind of maritime crime that we can have. We work in the project and we just see directly how we use this project in the industry. I think that for the background, for the person, if the person really wants to see the work like applied directly, it would be really nice to go with the enterprise, with the industry, I would say like that. But if we just wanted to take a time, I would say like that, because I think that in this research, you can take a time to propose things like you want, or to explore different direction. It will be really about try to have funding, but maybe in the side of academics. I don't know if I really answered your questions.
I almost meant, is there like an area of public policy? Is it like, you know, potentially like if we invest more in, you know,
Yes.
in, you know, where should we put our investment in order to get more mathematicians like you? Those kind
Yeah,
of
that would be great. I think that we have that, right? It's just because sometimes, like when you are too much inside math, you say, oh, I don't want to go to something that will just be rushed, right? Because when you work in the industry or where you work with or to other project like I see, you have the deadlines, right? Usually sometimes with the paper, or maybe you still have the deadline because maybe your contract, for example, for the postdoc is maybe this, no, but after you know that after your contract, you can still continue work on that. But with industry or with real project that you wanted to apply now, you need to keep the deadline and make sure that you complete everything before the deadline or something like that. That is really how I see. I don't know if it's really correct or something like that, but
okay. Well, thank you very much.
thank you. If you want, we can still discuss about that by email. I don't know. It would be. I would be.
Yeah, sure. I will. I'll look your address up. We'll meet on LinkedIn, and yeah, we'll lovely to have a chat about it.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I see this question. Does your daughter like maths? I don't really know. I think normally now, yes, but the person would think that that can really change, right? Like she maybe like to work in mathematics now, but it can change. Yeah. Okay, thank you so much and bye.